Hello and welcome to my first model railway video of 2024. So very happy new year to you all. Hope you had a good Christmas and Santa brought you some nice goodies. In this episode I'm going to be showing you what's happened over the last couple of weeks, which basically involves the fact that I now have some wiring and I've got a little bit of that done and some track laying, so stay tuned for more. So yes, the wiring kit that I'd ordered with the bus wire, droppers, connectors and various other pieces arrived just before the Christmas holiday. So that's enabled me to get on with some wiring on the layout. Even though I haven't got the controller yet, it won't actually affect where the bus wires go and everything. Obviously the endpoint will connect to the controller, whichever system I do end up going for. Also a little bit of track laying as well and a few bits of kit to assist me with that. So I'll run through what I brought so you can see what I've got. So let's take a look at the wiring kit that I purchased. This was from railwayscenics.com and is their large DCC power bus wire starter kit, non-solder with connectors. So we have 10 meters of red bus wire there, and 10 meters of the black also. Then we have the pre-wired fish plate connectors. These were an additional purchase, don't actually come with the kit, but for someone like me who's probably not that strong at soldering, certainly needs a lot more practice, these seem like a good way to go. So I've got a dozen of those. That's the red and black dropper wire that you would get in the kit as standard. Again, hopefully with a little bit of soldering practice, I shall use those on the straight sections of track where there isn't a logical join, which the fish plates obviously make more sense. Pack of Scotch lock clips there for joining the droppers to the bus wire. Some little cable tidy clips there. Those are self-adhesive wire hangers basically for putting underneath the layout. Most of mine will be drilled and go through the timber that I've got underneath the layout anyway, but they'll be useful in a few places. And then there's some connector blocks there, and I can't remember now whether they're resistors or capacitors or something like that. Basically it goes on the end of the bus wire, which I believe is to help with anything like shorts or overloads. But as I mentioned previously, as I'm looking at the DCC Concepts Aegis system to go along with my controller, that would sort of take care of that sort of things anyway. So all those came to about was about £15. Really good, I think that is really good value for everything you've got there. I've also got my wire cutters and strippers from DCC Concepts, which will be useful for obviously the parts where I actually need to do some wire stripping and connecting. And then a soldering iron, a fairly basic kit, but soldering is something I've really not done much of, so something I need to get, I think, used to, because it's going to come into play on a lot of elements of layout. This was quite a good buy from Aldi actually. So as you can see there, I've got everything I need to start wiring the initial phase of the layout. All the bus wire, the droppers to start connecting the main points. So really after that it was just a case of pulling my socks up and getting down underneath the baseboards, drilling the holes ready for the bus wire to go through, marking the points where the droppers were going to go down at the main pickup points for the up and down line. So I'll show you how I got on with that. So as I mentioned in an earlier video, the fiddle yard is probably the most important part and where the rest of the layout is going to be essentially based off. And this is also the section where the hinge section is in the layout, which at the moment I'm going to keep fixed, but we'll be allowed in the future to be able to open it just to make it easier to get in and out. One of the things wiring with DCC is you don't have to have a continuous circuit or loop with the wiring, of course. It's actually better to have a break in it. So obviously seems to be the most logical point to me to put the break in. So I'm going to start and follow you or take you around the layout and show you where my plan is for the wiring. So essentially we'd be starting at this point here, excuse the crudely written numbers on the temporary load track. So number 1 there is the down line and number 2 is the up line. So there'll be 2 droppers going in each of those to start with. Then as we come around this section here, which is basically just the up and down line with a small branch line which will disappear off up the corner there to go in. So another dropper is going to go in there between those point sections there, because that will cover the down line and the branch. Then we'll be coming through this section here, which will be a tunnel, so this will be all completely hidden. And then as we come back round again in the up and down lines, there's also the branch line to the back. Another main dropper point going in there on the crossovers. Again, these are pre-soldered fish plate joiners, so it's logical to put them in where you're joining 2 pieces of tracks together. Then we come round. That's an old bridge from the previous layout. There's going to be my idea is a dual carriageway style, more modern concrete bridge I intend to construct in there. Coming round then into the station. See another 2 soldered fish plate dropper points going in there, one feeding the back of the station on the down and one feeding the back of the station on the up. Through the station area, again just this is all temporary obviously with the platforms, probably going to scratch build some platforms when it actually comes to doing those. Then we'd come round the corner, again another temporary bridge going in there. This again is from a previous layout, just to give me an idea of spacings. I'm looking at a bowstring style bridge going in there. So then you can see points 7 and 8, which the droppers will be going in there as well. Again, that takes you into the fiddle yard, and then in the foreground there, number 9 will be the bi-directional freight line. Then that would take you back to the brake. Or in the baseboard. So essentially the wire would start, run all the way around and would come back to this point here, because then it wouldn't need to join at this stage to provide any power between the 2 sections. And then all that leaves then, if we drop over the back, point number 10, which dropping point number 10, which will take you into what will be the turntable area and the little heritage section. And then that would take you around the back to the heritage side of the layout, and again to the left and right, a couple of dropper points in there just to enable services to run in and out the station, into the little head shunt, the siding and the loop there. So that's the plan for all the pre-wired droppers. Obviously you can solder and you can put in basically as many dropping points as you like and connect to the bus wire around the layout. The more you have, the better, I believe, and to help with signal dropout and things like that. So when it comes to laying some of the straight pieces of track, coming around this way again on the main line, take you all the way around again onto the main line at the back there, I will solder and put the dropper wires through ready to be connected there. Just that these dozen points that I've shown you seem to me the most logical points to put the initial 12 droppers in. Right, so now the fun part, crawling underneath the baseboards. So basically I've got cross beams going all the way underneath the layout as it goes around. So all I'm going to do is drill a hole in 2 places, one where the main line and the bi-directional freight line are going to be, and one on the inner side while I'm under here, just as a backup for possible future expansion. And this is where the bus wires are going to go through, my red and black bus wires. So drill at the ready, excuse the noise, here we go. There we go. One decent size hole, easily take both bus wires around the layout. So I just need to rinse and repeat multiple times around the layout. So I'll see you when I've done all of that. So that's all the holes drilled ready for the bus wire around the whole layout now. Hoovered up as well to get rid of all the sawdust, so we're all nice and tidy. So the next stage basically will be to put the bus wire in, but I think it's time for a break now, and that can wait till a little bit later, so we'll see you in a while. Well, it's another dull and drizzly day outside, so I think this might be a good opportunity to get underneath the layout and get the bus wire installed. So let's see how that goes. So probably a little awkward to see, but I'm underneath one part of the layout here, and I've drilled holes through the bracing on the underneath of the layout to take the bus wires. So I'll feed the black and the red bus wires underneath there, and then they'll go underneath the whole of the layout. I've drilled holes on both the inner and the outer, although the outer should be the one I use because that'll do the up and down main lines, the heritage branch line, whereas the inner I would use if I'm going to extend the bus cable, just to make the droppers shorter when it comes to doing the yard and the bi-directional freight line, although the bi-directional freight line should feed from the outer ones anyway. So this might be a little bit awkward when I'm underneath and to secure the wire at one end while I thread it underneath. So what I'm going to do just as a temporary measure is screw one of these terminal connector blocks on the end of the two wires and pull it through the first of the supports underneath, so that then when I carry on threading around, that'll be on the other side of the block, so it'll be sort of kept tight as I pull round. Then that should take me around as I crawl all the way underneath the layout and hopefully end up back where I started pretty much. So there's the two ends I've just temporarily put into that terminal block there, and now I just need to get the other ends and thread them underneath. Just tried to add a little bit more light underneath the boards there just to give you an idea of what I've got to do. One thing I will mention is these storage units which I picked up from Amazon. They were absolutely ideal. Got just the right size for fitting sort of two depth rise of typical end gauge boxes in there. They're also on wheels. So I was thinking this because this literally was a spare room and had a lot of rubbish in here as well before I turned it into the model railway room. And these are just on wheels. Measure them to get the right size that fit underneath, so they can just be slid out, and then it's easy to get underneath and work on the layout. Typical few cardboard boxes on the other side, but again, all stuff that will move out quite easily, so you can actually get underneath the layout and do some work on when needed. So yeah, it's just a case now of I'm going to thread these wires through. So just to give you a quick idea, this is where I'm the first brace where I'm going to start the wire from. Just coming back this way, just out of shot, that's where the join is there. So ultimately that would be the start or terminating point, whichever way you want to look at it. So yeah, I'll just start threading. Won't bore you with going around the whole layout, I'll just show you the first bit. So I'm running a reasonable size hole, running both bus wires through, which I don't think is a problem. Shouldn't be any interference between the two as far as I know, but again, if anybody thinks that should be a problem, then let me know before I get to the stage of clipping and having to change it all. through the next one, and then now we'll start heading down into the countryside section of the layout. So far that's going well, so I'll carry on with that and catch you when I've done it all. So that took about half an hour or so, I think, crawling under there, threading the wires through. As you can see, that's not a bad job, I don't think. Goes all the way like that, the two wires right round, and I ended up with about 1.5 meters left over as such. Obviously not enough to get me around to the branch line, but I still need to incorporate the drop section as well, which I'll show you next. So this is the hinge section of the layout to allow easier access into the centre of the layout, which at the moment I have just kept in its fixed position. But as I mentioned in an early video, looking ahead, obviously might be more awkward for me to get in and out as I get older. This is a very long-term project, as I've said. But also in case I need to get any other bits in and out that might be a bit more awkward that either won't fit underneath or too awkward to go over the top, then obviously that gives me that option as well. So this is the fiddle yard above, as you may remember, which is part of the idea. So I'd have a non-scenic section in there, so I won't have to worry about anything like buildings touching or fouling anything when you might happen to lower the section. And it is a lowering section as opposed to a raising section, because I thought that would work better, because when the board would go up that way, obviously your track joints touching, whereas if you go the other way, they're falling away. So if I've worked out correctly, that should work better. So coming in with the bus wire from this side here, which is the hinge side, so I will come through this section of timber here, and then it will carry on through to this section here, and then that's just about where the other wire started. So if you can imagine above us now, the fiddle yard, we've literally just got the multiple lines, the up and down main lines, bi-directional, and then the various loops. So as long as I leave myself enough slack in this section here, so that when I do lower this at any point, obviously it doesn't pull the wires through, and I've got enough there with the 1.5 meters left over anyway that won't be a problem. This point here will be the terminating or start point, whichever way you look at it, if you like. As I said, you don't need to go full circle with the bus wires. So once I've got the droppers in on this section here, obviously that will power each of the lines above there. Droppers on the other side, power the lines on that side, and then droppers over this side here will power the other lines. So the actual break in the track, which will be at 2 points if this was to be lowered, obviously where the hinge is there, and there where the join is on this side, you'll still have power. Obviously you won't be running any trains off the end of the cliff when this is down anyway, but for now I shall just wire it through as solid, as though I'm not going to actually raise or lower this. Then it won't be a problem anyway, as long as I leave that slack in there for when this does lower. So hopefully that should work. I can't see any reason why it shouldn't do, but obviously if you think that's going to be a problem, let me know in the comments. The only thing I shall need now obviously is some more bus wire, because I shall have to go essentially from this section back around there and do a U, because the heritage branch line is behind me where I'm sitting now, behind here. So I shall need more bus wire. Now whether it's best to carry on this and almost effectively make a loop back so it's still the one long section of black and red, join it together with some of those connectors, I don't know. I need to double check on that, but again, if somebody wants to say which is the best way to go, or whether you can have more than the one red and one black bus wire, whether it's sensible to have another red and black bus wire going around on the inner section to do the yard and the bi-directional freight line, and sort of link that in with the heritage branch, then just let me know in the comments below, please. So that's one good job done there, having the bus wires all installed underneath there as far as I can go. Not the biggest job. Obviously getting the droppers connected is going to take a lot longer because there's going to be more of those to do at multiple points around the layout. So probably next on my list of jobs as regards the wiring is tied in with the track laying. So where I've got long lengths of track like this, I shall solder some dropper wires underneath those. So for instance, like on the back straight there, they'll be ready, and then I'll know where they're going to go, so I can drill the holes through, and then that'll be ready to feed the wires through and connect to the bus wires. And obviously the other locations where I mentioned where the pre-soldered fish plate droppers go on the points at the end, either end of fiddle yard, and other strategic locations around the layout, I can also do those. So that's obviously tied in with track laying itself as well. So that's going to be another whole story altogether. In the meantime though, if you've got any comments on what I've done so far in this video, where I'm up to, or where I'm going, any suggestions, for instance, like I mentioned about the bus wire, because I need to get some more to go around to the heritage section over the back there, whether that's going to be better connecting so I'm still on one continuous stretch of the black and red wires going around, if you like. Also, from what I've read, the best point to put the controller, or the feed for the controller in the bus wire, is in a central point apparently, as opposed to at either end, which sort of makes sense, which I believe is to do with the alternating signal that it sends out. So rather than have to start at this point and go all the way around looking for a loco, it effectively starts when my brake is at the front here and would go each way, and that's better for connections and pickups, I believe. So yeah, anything else, any comments, suggestions, hints, tips, always welcome. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.